My name is Mara Ellison, 27 years old. The spreadsheet was hiding where all dangerous things hide, out in the open, in a folder bland enough to make your eyes slide past it. Q3 adjustments. I opened it because the math in a quarterly memo felt wrong, because the server fan had that steady hum that always made me suspicious, because sometimes you know a room is occupied by the way the air sits. The file bloomed into rows and formulas, and I felt my stomach leave the building. Names I knew from client calls: Mrs. Margaret Chen, Mr. Ricardo Rodriguez, Mrs. Louise Patterson, lined up beside numbers that crept out the door in increments designed not to wake the dog. Notes in a far right column looked like a doctor's chart written by a sociopath. Shows early dementia, recently widowed, trust statements, daughter visits monthly, unlikely to question. It was not fee padding. It was arithmetic cruelty. Meridian Financial, the firm I had defended at holiday parties and onboarding sessions for 3 years, had been siphoning life savings from elderly clients under the camouflage of administrative adjustments. A few hundred here, 1,000 there, enough to feel like market noise to someone grieving and tired. My boss Marcus liked mahogany and metaphors. His office door was half closed the way it always was when he wanted to see you first. I printed everything because I still believed in paper like it was armor, and walked in with my coffee cooling on my tongue. "We need to talk," I said, laying the pages down, the staples glinting like handcuffs. He skimmed the columns and the flicker happened. Panic across his eyes, quick as a match. Then it was gone, replaced by that smooth, lacquered tone he reserved for clients with questions and staff with consciences. "You don't understand how business works, Mara. These are administrative corrections," he said, voice drifting into the leather around us. "Volatility offsets, market." Mrs. Chen lost $3,000 last month and called me crying because she couldn't afford her heart medication, I said. "Also, your grandmother is on this list." I didn't intend to say that last part. It just slipped out and hung in the light. He leaned back and studied me like a spreadsheet he could still salvage. "You're emotional," he said softly, an accusation dressed as empathy. "Clients consented to aggressive strategies. Sometimes there are losses." "Losses that go directly into company operating accounts," I said. I could hear my own pulse. "And a second set of books mirrored to a shared drive you call aux support. Why do we have a dual database, Marcus?" He didn't blink. Somewhere down the hall, the locked IT closet, 6 digits on a glossy keypad, was a secret that had started to feel like a heartbeat in the walls. "I think we're done here," he said, pushing the papers back with 2 fingers. "Go back to your desk." I did for 20 minutes. Then HR called. They sat me in a windowless conference room that smelled faintly of toner and wintergreen gum. The director didn't meet my eyes. "We're terminating your employment effective immediately," she read, as if the sentence were printed inside her eyelids. "Poor performance and attitude issues." I laughed, a short sound that surprised everyone, including me. "This is about the spreadsheet." "I don't know what you're talking about," Marcus said from the chair beside her, every inch of him arranged. He looked bored. He was not bored. He was erasing footprints. Security watched while I packed my desk. My team pretended the potted plant needed watering. The ceiling tiles needed counting. The printer needed prayer. 3 years of perfect reviews and 2 Employee of the Month plaques made a nice cushion for the box, where I placed my mug and the small fern I'd kept alive through 2 winters. When I passed the IT closet, the keypad glowed 0 and a ho like a dare. Someone had removed the tiny strip of blue tape I'd noticed last week over the hinge, evidence that door had been opened after hours. I filed the detail in the part of my brain that alphabetizes fear. At home, the quiet felt like a witness. I laid everything I'd ever kept, just in case, on the kitchen table. Emails, call logs, meeting notes Marcus had dictated and later denied. Screenshots of internal transfers flagged with euphemisms, volatility adjustment, rebalance spread. Voice memos I'd made after overhearing confidential conversations from my desk outside his office. A photo I'd snapped months ago when Marcus left his notebook open. The page titled G Factor, Gullibility Factor, ranking clients like a carnival game. Most importantly, I had his personal access codes. He'd made me memorize them for emergencies and never changed them after I reset his password during a client roadshow. Careless men assume loyalty looks like incompetence. It would be nice to say I became brave in a single cinematic minute. The truth is, I paced between the sink and the window and Googled whistleblower retaliation, can I be sued, until the screen blurred. I texted my mother and erased the message. I held a photo of my grandmother, silver hair, a cardigan that smelled like Tide, and remembered how she used to hand me quarters for the gumball machine with solemn ceremony. I tried to imagine her name in a column that excused theft with asterisks. That's where the fear finally cracked. I built a plan the way you build a bonfire, kindling first. Folders labeled by audience: SEC, State Attorney General, local compliance officers, 3 journalists whose bylines made greedy people nervous. I wrote out a timeline in ink because ink doesn't waver. I wrote a to-do list that began with breathe and ended with press send. Monday, 8:31 a.m. I dressed like a person who still had a job and walked into Sterling Investments with a flash drive in my hand and an anger that had cooled into something surgical. The receptionist said, without looking up, "Do you have an appointment?" "Tell your head of compliance I have information Meridian Financial would prefer the FBI not see," I said, placing my card on the desk. "It concerns systematic theft from elderly clients, and I brought proof." 20 minutes later, I sat across from Janet Wheeler, Sterling's compliance chief, her legal counsel, 2 internal investigators, and a woman who introduced herself as Detective Carmen Santos from Financial Crimes. The conference room was glass on 3 sides. It felt like being honest inside an aquarium. I pushed the drive across the table. "This is everything," I said. "Client theft patterns, notes on targeting, access logs, screenshots of transfers, audio of planning sessions. It goes back at least 2 years." Janet plugged it in. Her face changed in increments. Confusion, then focus, then the look of someone who recognizes arson and is already reaching for the extinguisher. The investigator beside her muttered something unequivocal and profane. Detective Santos didn't move. She just watched me like she was waiting to see whether I'd start shaking. I didn't. Not because I was strong, but because the shaking had already happened somewhere between HR and my kitchen table, and I'd run out of tremors. "Walk us through how you obtained this," Santos said. "I need to know if your access was lawful." "I was paid to have access," I said, sliding my employment contract toward her, the paragraph on data maintenance highlighted in yellow. "They just never expected me to actually read." Across the glass, downtown reflected in the windows like an audience. Somewhere in those mirrored buildings, a locked closet waited. A second database purred, and Marcus adjusted the knot of his tie without knowing which way the tide had turned. "Okay," Janet said finally, closing the laptop like a verdict. "What do you want?" "To destroy them completely," I said, "legally, and to make every client whole." Outside the room, a printer started, a phone rang. Life continued in straight lines. Inside, the air felt like the moment before a fuse catches. I sat very still and watched the light move across the table and thought, I told the truth and they fired me. Now I'll show them what dishonesty really looks like under fluorescent lights. "Then let's begin," Detective Santos said. By the time Sterling's legal team finished their first round of questions, it was noon. The coffee on the table had gone cold, but my pulse hadn't slowed since I'd walked in. Janet Wheeler closed the folder in front of her with the quiet precision of someone who already saw how big this was going to get. "Everything you gave us checks out," she said. "We've verified the account access logs. You didn't break any laws collecting this. You're protected under whistleblower statutes." Detective Santos leaned forward. "You said this has been happening for at least 2 years?" "Longer," I said. "But the structured targeting started about 18 months ago. They called it profiling for retention risk." "Profiling?" I nodded. "They built personality reports on every elderly client. Emotional state, family involvement, medical notes, even preferred communication styles. They used it to decide who could be manipulated quietly and who needed bigger lies." Santos exchanged a look with Janet. "Keep talking." "They flagged people like Mrs. Chen for early dementia. They encouraged clients to think losses were proof of market volatility. When someone questioned a withdrawal, Marcus would schedule a face-to-face meeting, make them feel confused about their own paperwork. If that didn't work, they'd bring in Sarah Fletcher, she's one of the partners, to sweet-talk the family." "And you have proof of all this?" "I recorded everything. Not because I thought it would ever matter. I just document things. Marcus used to assign me projects and then deny he'd asked for them. I learned to save everything." For the first time, Detective Santos smiled. Your bad luck is going to make my week. That night, after I left Sterling, I didn't go home. I drove circles around the city, listening to voicemail after voicemail from reporters I hadn't even contacted yet. Somehow, word had already begun to leak. Maybe someone at Sterling wanted to push the case forward faster, or maybe the universe was just impatient. Either way, it was happening. By morning, I had made my choice. I spent Saturday encrypting everything I'd collected into 6 identical folders labeled Retirement Planning Resources. 3 went to government agencies, the SEC, the State Attorney General's Office, and the Financial Crimes Division at the FBI. 3 went to journalists whose names made predators nervous: Maria Rodriguez from Channel 7, James Liu from the Tribune, and Sarah Kim, the investigative blogger who'd once blown open a bank scandal with nothing but leaked PDFs. I scheduled the emails to send Monday at 9 a.m. But that was only the first move. Sunday night, I brewed an entire pot of coffee, opened Marcus's admin panel, and logged into Meridian's secure client portal. He'd never changed his credentials. Arrogance masquerading as efficiency. It took me 10 hours to write what I was about to send. Each client would receive a personal email with subject line: "Your financial advisor has been stealing from you. Here's the evidence." I customized every one. The body contained screenshots from their specific accounts, withdrawal records, transaction IDs, fake volatility fees. Each message ended with the same paragraph: "If you are reading this, you have been systematically defrauded by Meridian Financial. The firm exploited your trust and your memory. Here's how to report it, how to recover your funds, and who to contact at the authorities." I attached proof, addresses for the SEC and the State Attorney General, even Sterling Investments compliance number. At 7:59 a.m. Monday morning, I hovered over the send button. My finger hesitated for less than a breath. Then I clicked. The system lagged, as if realizing the magnitude of what I'd done. Then, one by one, the status bars filled. 3,127 emails delivered. By 9:15, Meridian's main phone line crashed. By 10, their website went offline. By noon, clients were gathered in the lobby, holding printouts of my message and demanding answers. Marcus called me at 11:47 a.m. I answered because I wanted to hear him lose control. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he shouted. "You've destroyed people's livelihoods. There are families who depend on this company." "I showed them what you really built," I said. "You should thank me. At least they know the truth now." "We'll sue you for everything: corporate espionage, theft of proprietary information." "With what money?" I interrupted. "Your assets will be frozen within the hour. I've already spoken to the FBI." He went silent. I could hear his breathing, fast and uneven. "What FBI?" "Special Agent Martinez, Financial Crimes. He's very interested in your offshore accounts." "You're lying." "Account number 4471829 at Cayman National. Account number 7829163 at Swiss International. Should I keep going?" His voice dropped to a whisper. "How could you possibly—" "You used your work computer, Marcus. I managed your IT logs for 3 years. Every password, every transfer, every volatility adjustment has a timestamp. You can't use that information. It's privileged." "Actually," I said, "it's evidence of a federal crime." I hung up and dialed the number Detective Santos had given me for Agent Martinez. The FBI office was colder than any corporate boardroom I'd ever been in. Martinez was calm, a tall man with the posture of someone who hadn't slept in 48 hours. He flipped through the documents I brought until his partner, Agent Williams, muttered, "Jesus Christ." "This isn't just theft," Martinez said. "This is elder abuse, wire fraud, conspiracy, money laundering, maybe even RICO." I nodded, numb. They convinced old people they were losing their minds. They made them sign power of attorney forms by pretending it was standard paperwork. Williams pointed to a highlighted line in one of my spreadsheets. "What's this? Loss adjustment, Chen, cognitive decline." "They built profiles to target people with dementia," I said. "That's their internal note system." Martinez's jaw tightened. "We'll need statements from every client you can reach, plus original files from Meridian's servers. You're willing to cooperate?" I almost laughed. I didn't come this far to stop halfway. "Good," he said, "because once this goes public, they're going to panic. People with that much money at stake don't go quietly." He wasn't exaggerating. By Friday morning, the story had detonated across every channel: local, national, international. CNN called it elder abuse in the financial industry. The Wall Street Journal published a column titled "Predators in Suits." Channel 7 ran Maria Rodriguez's segment featuring Mrs. Chen's tearful testimony. And while the world watched, I sat alone in my apartment with my coffee cooling beside me, watching everything burn exactly the way I'd planned. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt a silence so deep it hummed in my bones. Outside, sirens wailed somewhere far off. Inside, my laptop screen refreshed again and again, and the headline at the top didn't change. Meridian Financial under federal investigation for elder fraud scandal. I closed the laptop and whispered to no one. Round one's over. Because I already knew what was coming next. Marcus wouldn't go down alone. By Friday afternoon, the story had become a storm, and Marcus was the eye of it. The footage was everywhere. Channel 7 replayed it on a loop, national outlets spliced it into evening segments, and social media ate it alive. Reporters camped outside Meridian's glass doors, microphones thrust at anyone still brave or foolish enough to walk through. Elder fraud scandal. Predators in suits. The dementia files. I thought it would feel like justice. It didn't. It felt like vertigo. The calls started mid-morning. Mrs. Chen was first, her voice trembling with something I couldn't name. "They made me think I was losing my mind," she whispered. "When I asked about the missing money, Marcus told me I was confused about my deposits. He even showed me charts." Her daughter Jennifer came on the line next. "He convinced us she needed supervised financial care. We were going to take away her independence." By the time the third call came, Mr. Rodriguez's daughter, crying between sentences, I'd stopped taking notes and just listened. All I could think was that I'd worked 3 doors down from the people who'd done this and hadn't seen the monster for what it was. Sunday morning, a message popped up on my LinkedIn. "I know what they built. I can prove it." David Park. The name took me a minute to place. Then I remembered. The IT manager they'd fired 6 months earlier. I met him that afternoon in a diner downtown, the kind that still smelled like burnt coffee and bacon grease. He looked older than his profile photo. "They told everyone I got caught snooping," he said. "Truth is, I asked too many questions." He slid a flash drive across the table. Screenshots, separate databases, one for official client records, one hidden under Service Aux. That's where they kept the psychological notes. I opened one of the images on my laptop right there in the booth. Line after line of clinical-style annotations. Frank Morrison, widower, 3 months. Takes Xanax. Son visits twice monthly. Confused. Ideal target. My throat went dry. They tracked family visits? Down to the hour. They wanted to know exactly when someone was too lonely to think straight. He rubbed his temples. "I didn't come forward sooner because I was scared, but after seeing the news, I can't live with it." I took the drive, promised to get it to the FBI, and left a 20 under my untouched coffee. Agent Martinez called before I'd even reached home. "You just handed us gold," he said. "We're moving on a warrant. Keep your phone close." Tuesday dawned gray and loud. From across the street, I watched a line of black SUVs pull up to Meridian's building. Agents in windbreakers streamed through the doors like a tide. They carried out boxes, computers, file cabinets. One of them paused, shouted, "Server core secured!" Across town, Marcus's partners were getting the same wake-up call. David Kim tried to flee in his bathrobe and got tackled in a park. Sarah Fletcher opened her door in tears and immediately started cooperating. Marcus himself was arrested at 6 a.m. in front of his mansion. The footage showed him shielding his face with a jacket while his wife shouted about their children's college funds. Reporters shouted questions. "How much did you steal? Did you target clients with dementia?" But he just kept walking, jaw clenched, eyes wild. I didn't cheer. I just watched, still in my robe, coffee cooling in my hand, while the man who'd called me emotional was led away in cuffs. 2 days later, Maria Rodriguez called. "People need to hear from you," she said. "They think they're stupid for being tricked. They need to see that someone cared enough to fight for them." "I'm not the story," I said. "You are the proof the system can still work." So I agreed, with conditions. No face, voice distorted, focus on the victims. When the segment aired Thursday night, the voice coming through the speaker didn't sound like mine. These weren't random crimes. This was a coordinated attack on our most vulnerable. They didn't just steal money, they stole dignity. The response was immediate. Hotlines flooded with calls. The FBI logged 200 new complaints in 24 hours. Across the city, adult children started calling their parents to ask questions they'd never asked before. A week later, Janet Wheeler from Sterling phoned. "We'd like you to join our compliance team," she said. "Someone who doesn't flinch when it matters." The offer came with a salary bump, benefits, and what she called whistleblower protection. I'll take it, I said, on one condition. She laughed. You're negotiating already? I want to personally contact every former Meridian client and help them recover what was stolen, on company time, with company resources. Janet hesitated, then said, done. The next 8 months blurred into files and faces, signatures and tears. Sterling gave me an office, a phone line, a paralegal named Elise who could find a missing decimal faster than I could blink. Together, we recovered $2.7 million for 847 people. The hardest visit was Mrs. Patterson. She'd sold her home, moved in with her daughter, and lived off canned soup and Social Security. When I handed her an $18,000 check, the last of what we could recover from seized assets, she cried until her daughter had to sit her down. Why did you do this? She asked. You don't even know me. Because someone should have protected you from the start, I said. That's what this job was supposed to mean. Her daughter hugged me on the porch. You gave her back her dignity. Not every story ended that way. Frank Morrison, the widower from the database, died of a heart attack 3 weeks after learning his savings were gone. His son told me the shame killed him faster than grief ever could. We recovered $23,000 for his estate. It wasn't enough. It never would be. Sometimes at night, I still see his profile line glowing on my laptop screen. Ideal target. The trials came next. Noisy and public. Marcus's defense team tried everything. Painting me as a vengeful employee, claiming clients had consented, even arguing that victims with dementia hadn't really lost anything. Dr. Harper destroyed that argument on the stand. They weren't losing their minds, she said. They were being driven to doubt their sanity by people they trusted. When it was my turn to testify, I looked directly at Marcus, watching someone steal from a grandmother with dementia and then go home to kiss his own grandmother. Good night makes you either a sociopath or a coward. The jury didn't take long. Guilty on all counts. 7 years in federal prison, $2.3 million restitution. His partners got 5. During sentencing, the judge asked if I had anything to say. Marcus taught me that honesty has consequences, I said. He's right. But dishonesty has bigger ones. He didn't look up as they led him away. Today, Meridian's old office is a nonprofit called the Elder Financial Protection Center. There's a plaque in the lobby that reads, dedicated to Frank Morrison and all victims of elder financial abuse. Sometimes I stand across the street and watch the sunlight hit that plaque until it blinds me. Mrs. Chen sends me a Christmas card every year. Thank you for being honest when everyone else forgot how, she writes. You saved my life. I keep it on my desk next to a photo of my grandmother. And when the FBI calls, as they did last week, asking me to consult on another case, I always say yes, because there will always be another Marcus, and I've learned exactly how to calculate the cost of dishonesty.